Hi. No, not really.
Hi, everybody. We're coming at you from different sides of your screen today. And just right when we went live, I had asked Fran if she wanted to do the intro. So that's why you got to, oh, because I sort of surprised her. Um, thank you for joining us. This is Friday with Fran. I am Shelly, and oh no, now you're on the other side. This is Fran. And we just are two friends who get together and we
Mhm.
chat about things special education related to raising children with disabilities. And for the last several years, Fran herself has become a person with a disability. And so she helps us get another perspective. So we have kind of three different perspectives that we talk about in the show when it comes to people with disabilities or special needs or special education. And we really didn't have a topic for today. And a few minutes before the show started, I just was thinking about how difficult it is to trust people and trust school systems and hospital systems and medical systems. And so we might talk about that. It might be too deep of a comment of a thing to talk about.
Let's see.
So how you doing, Fran?
I am. I'm a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit everywhere, but I'm better than I have been. So,
Well, that's a praise. Praise God for that.
yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
This is very weird for me to have you on the other side.
Is it? You want to switch it back? I mean,
No,
we could try.
no. We are fine. It's just weird for me. I'll get used
Here,
to it.
how
It'll
about
be
that?
fine. Thank you. Yeah. So, glad to know that you are doing better. So, is it just me or do you have difficulty trusting systems and people and
Oh, definitely. Trust is something that is hard for me to have, and then once I trust someone, um, it's seems so easily broken.
yeah. And that's kind of why I was curious because um oh, wait a minute. Sorry. I did full screen mode and I had a button where it said show chat, so I was going to show the chat and keep it in full screen mode, but then some I can't do it after all. So, okay. Um
Okay.
I find that really intriguing that it takes so much to build trust, but then what seems really like, it's one moment in a lot of instances that can break years worth of trust. And I just
And
find that interesting that
mhm.
that's I think that works for everybody like that.
And why do we are we so cautious with trust, and why do we allow a moment to ruin so much and have to start back over?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and kind of the point I was pondering. We're so, I don't want to say eager, but so prone to believing bad stuff over good stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that's a lot to do with it because we I think a lot of cases people just always think that underneath the surface this good thing is going to explode.
When's the other shoe gonna fall? That kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. And I don't really know why we live like that, but that just seems to be the way it is. And so when that one moment happens, we're like, "Oh, there it is. I knew it was there. It was just
Hmm.
hiding all this time." Like we almost set ourselves up for it in the rest of, you know, in the rest of the relationship before that moment happens. And then to go back to having that trust with that person or that system or kind of even society in general.
So how can what can we do instead of setting having these moments? What can we do that we can establish trust or create trust in the institution or with the person when we need that to have that with them in order for to help our loved one reach their fullest potential.
I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I know that we have to overcome this innate fear that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to somehow take past experiences and say they're not a forerunner of what will come. They may be, but it doesn't mean they're going to be something that will always be. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So we have to take that our past experiences and say yes, those are in the past and these have happened, but it does not mean that every time it will happen.
Right. And I think too, we have to, for our own sanity and our own inner peace, we have to look at and remind ourselves constantly of all of the good things, the good moments, the positive moments, the moments that helped us have that trust in that person or that system, and say it was one moment, one mistake, but that's not all of that system or all of that person. But that's so hard. Why is that so hard?
You know the word that comes to mind as you're sharing this?
What?
Grace.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I was thinking grace or balance. I was thinking it was going to be one of those two.
But because it is so hard to have that allowing for something that someone doesn't deserve, and we so often want to remember all the bad things, but we don't always remember the good or realize maybe these bad things happened because it was a time and place where they were in a bad place, and it's an anomaly for them rather than a something that's going to happen every time.
Right. And a thought that came to me while you were talking is we, I wonder if part of it is we don't want to look like a fool. And so when we've spent so much time and energy building a trust in someone or a system, and then that gets broken, then we
Right.
feel foolish, maybe because we didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that, whatever that is, um, ahead of time. I don't
Hmm.
know. I mean, it's just one of those things that I've thought about it many, many times. And, you know, um, I have seen more with a particular group of people having an untrust or a distrust than I think the average person. And that group of people is parents of children with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Because trust is broken so often, and you have to fight so hard to be heard, and you're distrusted so often that just you automatically assume that you can't trust anybody.
Right. And I think that's a very key point, is that you as the parent are often looked at and not given trust. Um, I've got some ideas in my head, but I want you to share sometimes that you have been not shown trust by a person or a system.
Um, my dog is barking. Sorry, that's why I keep muting it. I have no
That's
idea
okay.
why he's barking. But well, I mean, one that comes to mind like right away is my son. I had my son and my daughter. I was crossing the road. They were little, and he used to like drop down, and I call it noodling, where
Mm-hmm.
and so to keep him safe, I had to hold on tight to his arm because they were both young, so I had to carry, not let go. And he got a bruise around his wrist.
Oh, okay.
So I called the school right away to let them know what had happened. And lo and behold, the next thing I know, I have DCFS in my door because they said we had to mandate report you because we know that you abused your child. And I just was like, I called you and told you. So
Right.
it was very frustrating for me. And sorry, come here. It put, it put a deep distrust for me in the school system from that point forward. Um,
Right.
because I willingly told them exactly what had happened so that they knew. So, and it had no, so from that point forward and to this day, I don't trust them.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, that is more the norm than the exception.
I mean, if you have to mandate report, say, hey, because I'm a mandated reporter, I'm calling this in. I know you didn't do this to your child. Da 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 da. Then I'm prepared. I don't have all of a sudden someone knocking on my door, and I'm
Right.
about to lose my children, and I have to fight to keep them.
Right. And I don't have that extreme of an example, but I think about all the meetings, all the IEP meetings that I've attended over the years, all the conversations that I have been involved in with parents and teachers separate from each other, but also together, not at an IEP meeting, just having a conference or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that I've never done this, but I'm sure I have because it's almost our nature to just automatically think the worst about a situation. And when parents have been in these meetings and they say, well, my child does X, Y, and Z at home, or the opposite, my child doesn't do X, Y, and Z at home, but the school is seeing the opposite of that at school, whether
Mm-hmm.
they don't do it at home and they do it at school, or they do it at school but they don't do it at home. I think I said those the right way. That,
Yeah.
we question. And I don't know that we shouldn't question, but I wonder if it's the way that we question, or if it's just the fact that we are questioning. Right, Mom? She says
Mm-hmm.
she was having so much fun cleaning that time got away from her. She's joining us late.
Well, I'm
Actually,
glad
she
you
she
joined
may
us.
actually, because she loves to clean. So, hey, Michael, how are you?
Hi, Michael.
You haven't been able to join us in a while, so it's very nice to have you with us today. And anyone else that's joining, we haven't seen Michael or heard from Michael in a long time.
And so we're talking about trust.
Yeah. So it's really, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to fix it. But I do think that it's pervasive, and not just with school systems. Um,
So, like, even why do we always assume the worst?
I don't
Why do
know.
you assume that if someone walks in with a broken arm to the ER that someone did it, it wasn't an accident?
I don't
Why do
know.
you know? What have we set our what has society set us up for in that way? Those are my
I
questions.
Yeah, and that's the perfect question, because I don't know why we automatically think the worst. I mean, and you think about it, even the news. I mean, that's why you almost only hear negative stuff, because people are more interested in negatives and hearing about negatives than positives. They always say that the good stories don't sell, the good stories don't bring viewers in. So why are we like that?
Good question.
I think your question and that question go together. Like, why do we automatically think poorly of a situation?
I don't know.
Are we naturally so? For those watching, is it just Fran and I that do this, or do you guys do that too? Maybe Fran and I are the anomalies. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Actually, I think I have an idea.
Yes.
I think it has a lot to do with, well, I do feel like we're kind of born that way. The whole, we're born into a fallen world, a world full of sin. And I think that we're always trying to be tricked into thinking that there's only negative things out there, so that we don't believe that God is the all-knowing, all-loving, has a perfect will for us in mind at all times, and that we stray from that. But if you don't have that belief, what would be the answer?
I don't know. Anybody want to chime in?
I know. Crickets all of a sudden. Nobody else wants to admit that they feel the same way that we do.
But I know that I've had to overcome this lack of trust because I need to accomplish things. And in order to accomplish them for my children, I needed teamwork. And so I had to put aside this innate distrust and create a team feel, even though I didn't feel it, but knew I needed to make it happen.
Right. So I was talking to someone, speaking of the team, the other day, a parent, and we had been in an IEP meeting, and the teacher kept saying, well, you just have to trust me. You just have to trust me. And I was like, why? I mean, this mom already trusts that you're going to educate her child. You're going to keep her child safe. She's already sending her whole world to you and trusting that you're going to do right by her son. And that, he's going to get home safely at the end of the day. She's already trusting you with all of that. And then when she asks you for clarification about something that happens during the day and you don't want to tell her, why is that? Why does she just have to trust you?
Right.
And they didn't have an answer. It was just like, well, because we know what we're doing. People tell me
we don't know what you're doing.
I try to see the good in everything. At least I think I do. Maybe my kids don't think I do. Well, I don't think you're naive, but I did learn from you to try to see the positive in the situation. And to try to see the good in people, when they show the negative side, though. And I think for me, it also depends on what was done when that negative side was shown. And I shouldn't even probably call it a side, that negative portion, because a side means like that's a big chunk.
And
it's
negative aspect.
Yeah, that one moment. So how do you, so when you had that situation with that school personnel, like what did you have to do to get yourself to go in and talk with them the next time you needed to talk to them? And how did it make you feel? If, I mean, I don't know if your son ever got a different bruise at another time about telling them then.
I never did tell them again. And I hoped that if the days that he fell and he bruised himself, that it wouldn't be, he wouldn't have a bruise, or it wouldn't be obvious, or someone wouldn't make a big deal out of it. Because from that point forward, I felt like I needed to have bubble wrap around him just to protect him from society saying that. I mean, he already wore a helmet because he couldn't catch himself and he would fall. So it wasn't like medical field didn't already know that he was a danger to himself.
Right.
So to this day, I have a distrust of that person, and have to have, even as I speak of it, I've had to work through bitterness and forgiveness and letting go, because it's still there and it's shaped many other things. And it's now it's going to sound like I hid bruises whenever my kids have bruises,
No.
but I remember a time that he had a bruise on his knee, and I had to go to the doctor, and I was so afraid that I was ready to cancel the doctor's appointment
Wow.
because, but he needed to go to the doctor because he had an ear infection. But I was like, they're going to see this bruise and they're going to take my son. I'm not even going to be able to walk out of the
Right.
doctor's office with him. So it truly did shape from that point forward that fear. So I have had to overcome that because I want the best for my son, and so sometimes that goes counterintuitively against the areas where I no longer have trust.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that
And I
make
mean, I
sense?
could see, yeah, I could see why you would certainly have that fear. I don't know that I ever, Violet was a climber. She liked to climb trees. In fact, she has a tree at my parents' house that we have dubbed it Violet's tree because she climbed that tree so much when she was younger. And I mean, yeah, she would get bruises up and down her knees, up and down her legs. And I don't ever remember anyone questioning me or saying, oh my gosh, your child has all those bruises on her legs. You know, we're going to call DCFS on you. And I do think it does probably disproportionately happen that DCFS is called on parents of children with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have any proof of that. I don't have any numbers of that, but
And it occurred with my daughter as well. She would thrash and hurt herself, and so I would hold on to her to the point that I would get a bloody nose or a bloody chin because I was protecting her from hurting herself because I didn't want something to happen.
right. And then
So,
would she end up getting like a bruise or something?
well,
Hi, Alex.
and then she also had birthmarks that look like bruises.
Okay.
So I don't know how many times people. So they finally, I guess, documented it so that they had it marked that she has a bruise. She has a birthmark around her ankle and a birthmark on her backside that are truly birthmarks and they're not bruises. So when they get that call, then they just immediately unfounded that. But yeah, I got called on both of them. But
That's,
and
yeah.
I promise I never did anything to them except love them.
And Mom, I don't know why I'm squinting. It might just be the angle that you know, you notice that Fran and I are on opposite sides of the screen today. So it could just be that I'm sitting weird and I'm not intentionally squinting. I'm not tired.
Yeah, and I know I'm squinting. I'm tired and it's been a rough go of it.
Yeah,
So I apologize.
that's okay. Mom's just worried about us.
Oh, we'll survive. We're survivors.
Yep, that's for sure.
So do you
So
guys like it with us switched, or do you like it better the other way? That's the question of the day.
there you go. To stay this way or to go back to original?
Well, it puts my camera right over you, but I don't know if it makes me look at you or not. But I think it does better than it did the other way.
That's what moms do. They worry about their children. Alex says it's different. Yes, it is. That is for sure.
So, but am I looking at you better this way?
Is it different in a good way, different in a bad way, or just different? Because different doesn't have to be good or bad. It can just be getting used to. So we have a few people. Yes, she is, Mom.
Oh, thank you. I need all the mom help I can get.
So he says Morgan was bit by a spider over her eye. It was swollen shut. We had to go to Children's. The eye doctor had to take pictures to make sure it was documented in case it happened again.
Oh, wow.
Did they think that you had done something? Is that what you're meaning by saying in case it happened again? I'm guessing. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, do we really have, and probably we do, and this is probably the reason, but do we have that much abuse in our country that we do have to question?
I don't know. I'm sure we have a lot, but which makes me sad.
Yeah.
But once it's established, maybe let go of those that is Jonas talking.
He's snoring. Can you
He's
hear him?
tired. No.
He doesn't often snore, but yeah, I've had him outside quite a bit today because it's so nice here. So I know for me, the fresh air makes me tired. So I guess maybe it's done the same thing to him.
We have the doors open.
Yeah.
No air running.
Yeah, it's that kind of a day for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Well, and so are school personnel. So, and anybody that works with children, actually.
I was going to say Girl Scout leaders, church, whatever, you're all mandated reporters.
Right. I would think you are too, Michael, as an EMT. Unfortunately, we do. I saw so much more than I ever thought I would when I worked in daycare. Yeah. So, but like you said, Fran, you know, once somebody, oh, bye. It was nice having you with us.
Bye, Michael. Take care.
But like you said, Fran, once you have that trust and you know the person, but then I don't know. I mean, you don't ever really think anybody, I guess, is going to do that to their children. You know, and people are often surprised, and that I guess sometimes does backfire because you're like, oh no, they would never do that to their child, and then it turns out that they do. I don't know.
I don't either.
It's like I said, it might be too heavy of a topic to discuss because, you know, I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with an answer. I do know though that it makes it uncomfortable and difficult to have meetings when you've had something like that. And let's say it's not, you know, let's move away from like abusive situations. You know, like I said, you know, we all parents send our children to a school, and we're sending, you know, our whole world to a school. And so we already have that trust, that I'm already trusting you to keep my child safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also trusting you to educate my child. So, you know, in a lot of instances, kids don't seem to be getting educated. It isn't probably for lack of trying on the educator's part, but there isn't much growth happening especially when it comes to our students in special education. And And so I think when we question the teachers, they get very defensive because they've already spent, all this time and energy and their talents, and then it's not enough to help that student
Mhm.
grow. And I think they get very defensive. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing all these things. It's not my fault. And it isn't, to the degree that the child hasn't learned. But have you tried other ways of teaching?
Right.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what most parents are thinking. Like, yeah, I know you're doing your best, but have you tried this, or have you thought about this, or have you researched that, or have you only done the thing that you've always done?
Right. Yeah, I think because so often there is this mistrust, distrust, that you're always thinking when someone questions you that you're coming at it from a negative aspect rather than a different perspective. And it goes both ways because sometimes you could be, sometimes you could not be. And so it's a matter of we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to see it from their perspective? I
Yeah.
think.
And that's an excellent point, is trying to see it from a different perspective. And I'll be honest, I had to do that when I left teaching and when I started as an education consultant, because with a lot of the teachers that I worked with, my perspective of them was that they just didn't want to give the extra little bit of effort or time or research or even attempt. And then it took a couple of years, and somebody explained to me, you know, remember, they don't get much education towards special education, but they're expected to do almost the same
Mhm.
level of educating children in the special education world as I am. And I had a whole extra year to get a special education degree. It's a 5-year degree. To get a gen ed teaching degree, it's a 4-year degree. So, I had all those specialized classes. And so then when I was able to look at it with that lens, I started to think, oh, so maybe they were scared that they were going to do it wrong, or maybe they were scared that they were going to fail because they didn't have the knowledge, and they didn't know that they could ask, or they
Mhm.
didn't think that they could ask without looking like a failure to whomever they would ask. So when I was able to start looking at the gen ed teachers that I worked with, and kind of gen ed teachers in general, that softened my approach.
Got it.
However, I didn't know most of what I knew from college either. Most of what I did with teaching, I learned on the job and as I went along.
And I
Um,
think that's most jobs, really,
yeah,
right?
I think so. I mean, scarily, is that a word?
We'll
um,
make it a word for the day.
it's a word for today. I have family who are nurses, and when I was telling them about the teaching thing, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's the same way in nursing." I'm like, "Wait, what? What do you mean it's on the job training? You don't know what you're doing when you come in there?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, you got to practice. You got to, you know,
Hmm.
yeah, you learn all this combination and this, this and this are
There's the
good together,
book
and this and this will
knowledge.
explode."
Yeah.
But, as far as a lot of the other stuff, it's figuring it out as you go.
Book knowledge versus life knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. And for that reason, pretty much solely that reason, is why I don't put um, what am I trying to say? I don't put people with a college degree higher in my level of who like respect or authority versus someone who doesn't have a college degree.
That makes me laugh. Someone the other day found out I had a college degree, and they went, "You do? Well, then you're educated." And I'm thinking, well, what was I before? Top liver? And I know they meant no harm, but it just made me laugh because I'm
Yeah.
just like, once again, the outward appearance of being using a walker and having braces and versus anyway.
Well, no, and that's a good point. I mean, that's what I said at the beginning is that, you bring that perspective because I don't have that perspective. And, you know, were you treated that way before you became disabled?
No.
No. So it is a problem. It is a perception that we have to fix. And the only way we fix that, and the same way with, I think, the trusting issue, is that we have to know ourselves and recognize how we are reacting to situations or how we're responding or how we're even acting. Maybe we're not reacting, maybe it's just acting in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to know what we are, because we are the only ones we can control. We can't control anyone else's attitudes or actions.
We can't?
No,
Oh,
we can't.
man.
Not long term. I mean, yeah, we can
You
hold
just
somebody's.
burst my bubble totally.
I know. We do that a lot to each other. You know that?
Yeah. Speak truth.
Yeah. I respect teacher are great in that how they. Blah, blah, I can't read. I respect teachers greatly in that how do they meet the needs of each different child in a classroom. Yeah. It is not an easy task. It does require a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of collaborating. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the more we listen to the parents about, how the child learns, because we're not with the child every year. Most teachers are not. They're with the child for a year and then the child goes to a different teacher. But the parents are there from beginning and every year
Mm-hmm.
to whenever we get the child as that child's teacher. Now, I did have the privilege of having the majority of my students at least 2 years. And so I did have an opportunity to really get to know them and then continue the next year or even 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 years. And that probably has its downfalls too. But it was what it was. But I did listen to the parents. I tried to, at least. I hope I did. As I've said before, I still have relationships with most of the parents that I taught their children.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I did something right. I hope I did something right.
I'm sure you did lots of some things right.
But yeah, Alex, to your point, I mean, back to the gen ed teacher. I mean, they have their kids in their classroom that supposedly learn the way that they're teaching. And then, that's supposed to be the majority, like 70 to 80%. But then there's still that 20% or so that, how did they learn? How do I reach them? And do I have to come up with a different way for each one of them? Or,
Mm-hmm.
is this way going to work for this chunk? And then there's only, this group left. Like it is. I mean, I appreciate that respect, Alex, because it is very difficult. And I will say, as a special ed teacher, I had however many different lesson plans as I had students for every subject.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a dog distracting me.
No,
Can you
that's
see
okay. I
his
did.
nose?
Yeah. Big face.
He's a little puppy.
Not so little anymore.
No, I could not pick him up, and I'm not even going to try.
And I do not want you to. And I'm sure neither does anyone watching.
In
So,
case anyone wonders, this is my nephew puppy. He's a standard poodle.
yeah. So I'm going to say a statement, and I want you to tell me if I'm on target, in the ballpark, or not even close to this being truth. From the moment your child is born, if your child is born with their disability and it's obvious, or from the moment your child is diagnosed with a disability, from that point forward, you are always in defensive mode because of defending that person's right to life.
Yes and no.
Okay.
You are not only in defensive mode. Yes, I'm listening to you, Mom. Dog on the floor. Not only are you in defensive mode, you are in offensive mode. So that is the hardest dichotomy that you have is you are constantly defending the right for your child to exist, but at the same point you're fighting for everything your child needs. So you're trying to dig your feet in and hold ground, but at the same point forge forward to gain ground. And it sometimes you get yourself all tied up in a knot because it's hard to do both at the same time.
Yeah, I would absolutely think so. And
So that didn't really answer your question.
well, so was I, so I was in the ballpark.
Yes, you were in the ballpark.
Okay.
There is the defensive aspect, but it's only part of it. It's only
Right.
half. I think it's the word, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think though that it it really is sort of underlying even the offense? Because would you have to be on offense if you weren't defending them and their right to be who they are? Does that make sense?
So you're saying in essence, are you defensive minded even in your offense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say yes, the defense shapes the offense.
And the reason I ask is because I never recall. Uh, there was one year that we had to talk to the school about Violet's teacher, but other than that, I mean, we didn't have to go to school and say, you know, my child deserves X, Y,
Mhm.
and Z. So
Right.
that's why I asked, because I don't feel I ever had to be offensive to get what she was supposed to have.
And I really don't like it having to be the offensive. The defensive has just become second nature.
Yeah. Yep.
But the offense, I still struggle with. I it's not my cup of tea. I wish things would just happen instead of having to fight for them.
Yeah.
And like for my son who lives in a group home now, it's been really neat to see he has certain staff around him now that just do for him and I don't have to fight. So it's
Oh,
so nice just to get a text with a picture. I got the other day a picture of him on a swing, just showing me that he was out enjoying life and doing what
oh,
he's supposed to do, which is exercise. And
right.
that was the purpose of that. And I didn't have to fight for them to do it. I didn't even have to ask them. They just did it. And so those are the treasured moments.
Yeah.
And like for my daughter right now, I feel like I'm fighting the world and and validating what she's doing or not doing right now instead of what the world thinks she should be doing. And
Right.
it's so frustrating. Why is everyone questioning my parenting of her? Why are they not allowing her just to do what she needs to do?
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, referring back to the difference of parenting, people aren't questioning what Violet's doing. They're
Hmm.
like, oh, okay. I mean, that's when we talk about what she's doing, that's basically the response I get. Oh, okay. It's not, oh,
Yeah.
well, she should be doing this or she should be doing that or
Why is she doing what she's doing? Yeah.
right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why we feel that it's okay to question, um, and then why we actually do. Some people verbalize those questions.
Like
It's
even
one thing to
people
have the
that don't
thought.
even know her very well are
Right.
asking me these things, and I'm just like, why? What gives you that right to question that?
Right. Yeah.
And then I get defensive, and then I get. But I'm learning that when I get this bombardment of questions and things, okay, it irks me and irritates me, but that does not mean I take it out on anybody around me. And so then I have to let go. I have to ask God just to give me some grace and peace about it so that it doesn't reflect upon those around me that or get the brunt of my frustration. I don't want that to happen. So I'm having to learn in this season of life with my daughter how to navigate when the world questions everything.
Yeah. And I can imagine that that's a big struggle.
It, it's been more than it has been. It's just learning just to be the best supporter of my daughter and help her reach. It's all the goal has always been for both of my kiddos to help them reach their fullest potential. That's what I've always said.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, I said they were blank slates. And I, as a mom, when they were younger, I had more control over who got to write on their slate. And now, so much of what's written on the slate, I have no control over. But I still try to be there to make sure that bits and pieces that are written don't overwrite the important stuff that's already been written.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do. And that's all anybody can do for their child.
Yeah.
It just seems that I don't even know where the slate is anymore.
Yeah. We as parents do what we think is right for our child. We weren't given an instruction booklet. We just do the best we can. And I'm going to add to that at the time with what we know. And when we learn
Yeah,
something different, if we need to go change what we've done, then we go change what we've done. And we don't hold it against ourselves that we didn't know sooner.
true. And that is, I mean, you need to like put that down with an exclamation point because we beat ourselves up with knowledge that we have now for something that previously we had no knowledge. So how could we have understanding and the ability to use it?
Right. Yeah. And that's called irrational thinking, to beat yourself up thinking, well, I somehow should have known sooner. And the reason I can say that, and I can say it with authority, is because I did that for
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years. Well, I should have known that. Well, how was I
Oh,
supposed to have
yeah,
known that? I don't know, but I should have known. No,
right.
you can't. It's just, and I think a lot of that for me was taken away when I started to really trust in God and
Uh
his
huh.
ability, and that, he does see things that I don't see. He sees the past, he sees the future, he sees today. And I truly trust that he can do what he says he's going to do, that he has a perfect plan for me, for Violet, for Kevin, for all of us on this call, on in the world. He has a desire for all of us to have good things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always know what it's going to look like. In fact, I never know what it's going to look like between now and when something becomes okay again in my eyes. But I know that I'm okay because God's got me and I am his.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's where my trust lies when I go through rough times now. When I do find myself in a situation where previously I would have beat myself up because, well, why didn't you know that? Or why didn't you find that out sooner? Or why didn't you act upon that sooner?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it now. I know it now, and I'm moving forward. I can't go backwards.
You can, but you don't want to.
Well, I mean, I can't go back in time.
Okay.
I can go backwards. You're right. I can't go back in time. I didn't say that correctly. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Because, yeah.
Sorry. I think someone Amazon's here
That's
or
okay.
something.
No, I like what you said, and what we do now may change in the future, and that's okay. Things change. Yeah, absolutely, Alex. We're always getting new information. There, that's the main reason that my live stream that I have on Tuesdays is called #NoLimits, because we don't know what new thing is going to happen tomorrow, or what new information we're going to get, or you know, for us as individuals, for us as a society, for us as an education system or a medical system or a IT system or a whatever, world that you work in and live in.
He's barking, so I get dog duty.
Well, okay. That was him barking? I thought that was Yanko barking.
No, Yanko sounds really deep, and he's a big
Oh,
dog bird.
okay.
Sorry. Stop.
That's okay. Oh,
You get a pat on the rump.
right. Exactly, Alex. It doesn't make what we are doing now wrong. Because exactly what you and my mom both said, we do what we know to do at the time.
Yeah.
We do our best at the time, and that's the best you can do. There was a cartoon when Violet was little called Roly Poly Oly. Did you ever watch that with your kids?
No.
And one of the sayings was, "I'm going to do my best because the best is all I can do."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we have to sink our teeth into that, I think, and really, like, yeah, this is it. I can't do any different because this is all I know. This is all the strength I have. This is all the peace and patience, whatever it is that you need at that moment. You've done it.
You're right. And as you were sharing, and I was thinking to how we started this, and we were talking about trust. And everyone has to do better. We have to do better, everyone. And we have to take the situation and evaluate, is that trust real or distrust real? Or is it just because of past experiences we're not trusting at this point? And there's no reason to have a distrust.
Right.
So we need to take each moment and evaluate it rather than lump it into past experiences or thoughts that we just think this is going to happen.
Right.
So that's my thought process on that. After all of this going around, and well, because I'm just thinking of just my own experiences, just that we've brought up, and just, am I doing that, or am I just going, oh, that's how it's always been, so of course it'll happen like that again. So why should I trust? But it doesn't mean I shouldn't. And you're right. I just need to trust in the Lord's plan and know that he's got it, and I just got to trust him.
Yeah. That's really easier said than done, though.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
mean, and I still have my moments where I take things out of his hands, even though I think I've given them to him. And then all of a sudden I find myself trying to control a situation. I'm like, okay, did it again. Gonna have to give this back to God. Here you go. And, then
Hmm.
same situation, maybe a week later, and I find myself trying to control it again. So yeah, I mean, it's a series or a cycle.
Yeah.
Well, we've done it. We've talked about it for a whole hour.
Oh. Oh, this was a heavy one.
It was. That's why I said at the beginning, we may not be able to do it. It might be too big, might be too heavy, too deep.
Too deep,
But we
deep and
managed.
wide.
Deep and wide, yeah. But we managed.
So
Apparently,
maybe we'll have
apparently,
something fun the following one we'll do.
yeah. Anybody have any ideas?
Drop them in the comments.
Drop them in the comments or send us. Even if we go off the air today before you have a chance, or you think of something throughout the week that you want us to address, we're always up for ideas.
We're flexible. Not really physically flexible, me, but we're flexible.
Yeah, we want to help. We want to try to talk about different things. We honestly, it's like literally we were like, what are we going to talk about today? Neither of us had any ideas. So it literally just hit me just a few minutes before we started today. So but on that note, I don't see anything popping up. So those of you who are watching live or in the replay, if something comes to your mind, let us know. What would you want us to address? What do you want us to talk about? It's okay, Alex. We are happy that you were here at all. And thank you.
Thanks for being here, Mom.
Yep. And Michael and anybody else who's been with us, who I'm seeing if there was any other people commenting that didn't comment. We appreciate you being here as well. And we hope that you have a good week. And our message always is you're not alone. Whatever it is that you are going through, you are not alone. You can reach out to us and we will help you if we can, or direct you to people that would be better suited to help you.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's it, Fran. See ya.
See ya.
Oh, Mom says bye, Fran. Fran, take time for yourself and take a nap.
I will. Thank you, Mom.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.